Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar. My name is Weston Konishi. I'm president of the Sake Brewers Association of North America. For those of you who may not be familiar with us, we are the trade association dedicated to promoting and supporting the sake brewing industry in the United States and others who are involved in sake brewing across North America, from Mexico, Canada, and the United States. We're really excited today to do this info session on a recently announced advanced sake brewer certification course. One of the initiatives we've been considering is a training program for brewers to help them improve their brewing techniques and methods and to stay ahead of the curve in their brewing operations. And long story short, and believe me, it's been quite a process, but very happy to say that recently things really started to come together with help from our outstanding SBANA members, Shima Enomoto and Justin Potts, to organize an advanced brewer training program at Gakkogura in Niigata, Japan, this coming summer. So that's what we'll be talking about today in detail. We'll first hear from SBANA Chairman Andrew Centofante, who will give an overview of this project. Then a veteran brewer, Justin Potts, who's recently relocated from Japan to Arkansas to join Origami Sake, will then talk about the training course contents. And then we'll turn it over to Shima Enomoto, who will go over logistical details of the project. Before we get started, though, a few housekeeping notes. First, this session will be recorded, so you're welcome to review this video later on. And for those of you who have friends who aren't able to make it today, please let them know that this session is being recorded. We'll have that up on our YouTube channel in the coming days. And we'll be fielding audience questions throughout the session. So please feel free to pose the questions via the Q&A button at the bottom of your screens, and we'll try to get to as many questions as we can today. We'll run about an hour long today. We'll see how far that takes us. If there's other pressing questions, we're happy to extend the session a bit longer. So with that, let me turn it over to Andrew Centofante, and I will share screens that we can go over the slides that we've prepared for today.
Can you put the slides in, or should I?
Yeah, I got it going.
Okay. Okay, so I wanted to start with kind of like a big picture overview of big goals. You know, for the Sake Brewers Association, part of why we are here is to push the sake industry forward. And so the question is always, how do you do that? And I take a lot of this from personal experience. And I think to my early days and even current challenges with sake brewing in the United States. And it's not an easy thing to do. Resources are limited. Training is limited, knowledge is limited. So there are all these kind of really big challenges that we as an association look at as, you know, roadblocks into how we actually advance this industry forward and make it an exciting and, you know, vibrant, you know, business landscape. And so, you know, I look at my own journey, and there were all these kind of moments along the way that were a little bit of luck, where I got kind of aha pieces of information kind of through difficult methods, whether it was deep research or the right connection. You know, I was lucky enough to be able to take a trip to Japan and do a little bit of an internship at Diamond Shuzo, and that was so eye-opening and mind-blowing. But like I said, it was kind of a lucky connection for me. And so what I think about is, how do we provide something like that to other people? How do we get brewers the opportunity to go to Japan, to see how brewing is done in Japan, to get knowledge and research from people who have been doing this for a long time? And then also, how do we bridge that gap of the challenges that American brewers face, North American brewers face, and that how can we help the ones that are you know, actually making sake now? How is it practical? How is it real and tangible. And so we talked about, how do we put together a course or a certification to accomplish these things? And like Wes said, we were lucky enough to start to build relationships with the people on this call, as well as other key people in Japan. And this course just started to evolve. And I think from the get-go, one of the things that we knew right off the bat was that this had to be a professional course. And this had to have a certain level of care, a certain level of seriousness, because there are, sake brewery tours that happen in Japan quite often. Often very surface level. This is how you make sake. This is what koji is. And we knew that, number one, the people participating in our program are people who have brewed sake many times, who have spent nights and hours in the koji room, who ponder deep level questions way more than just, what does the koji do to your sake kind of thing. So we knew that this had to go a lot deeper than anything out there. And then secondly, like I said, bridging that gap to the United States, it needed to be something that met the needs of our brewers, of our members. And so we knew we needed to be able to bring our story, our data, and our real life problems to that course so that we could solve real life problems. And so that was kind of the overarching goals, like big picture goals of what we wanted to put together for a sake brewing professional course. And I think that on top of that, so what developed, which is really exciting, was this relationship with Gakkogura, and this idea that, some of the challenges when you do go to Japan or try to learn from Japan is that, you have to build a relationship. And then also the brewing season can be a really big challenge. A lot of these breweries are only able to bring you in during actual production, and that can be a really difficult thing for a lot of brewers to accommodate somebody during a very intense brewing season. And on top of that, how do you get questions asked when you're in the middle of a very intense brewing environment? So Gakkogura gives us a big opportunity to kind of pull away from the intensity of a season-based brewing and gives us more opportunity to dive deep. And so I just want to also make it clear that this program, while it's happening at Gakkogura, this is not their typical program. We are working to build this program custom for this professional experience. And so additionally, kind of like breaking it away from like the seasonal aspect of sake brewing, using this kind of learning environment that they already have built is extraordinary. It gives us hands-on and practical aspect of our curriculum. It gives us the ability to stop and ask questions. It gives us the ability to then also do more workshop or seminar-based approaches to learning and diving deep on topics. And then we're also able to go and visit other breweries as well that offer different perspectives, different types of expertise. And again, outside of the big pressure of going to some of these breweries and asking for, what a program like this really needs to be. So I think it gives us a really great foundation to build a really exciting program on. So if you want to go to the next slide.
Sorry.
It's okay. There we go. So I started to actually get into this a little bit sooner than I thought. But like I mentioned, Gakkogura is a commercially built brewery for the purpose of hands-on education, and then workshops integrated into the program, and conversation throughout the day. And as you're doing some of these, some of the work that you'll be able to do. And then, like I mentioned, brewery visits to additional places that can offer expertise and perspectives. And this will just be an opportunity to see, how other breweries tackle problems and challenges, how they approach, how they make their sake. And sometimes, things like that are unbelievably valuable to be able to change how you approach something and to see how somebody else does it. So I think it's a really important part, and it gives us opportunity to visit multiple ones. So you can go to the next slide. I mentioned this before, but for us, it's really important that this is a valuable program. And we know that the challenges facing North American brewers are huge and varied. And so one of our main goals is to make sure that this is something built for the participants. So as we work through this process and we get finalists for this program, a lot of work is going to be going into establishing goals and content based on the interests of the group. And so I think that's a goal of ours. It's a key thing that we think is extremely important as we're building this program. But then I think on the other side of it, it is a collaborative and reciprocal requirement almost for this to be successful. And that means we're going to be looking for data to be shared. We're going to be looking for challenges to be shared, ingredients to be shared, and try to do as much as we can to bridge that gap with our Japanese counterparts so that they really understand the challenges that we're facing. You know, it's one of those things where sometimes in the world of sake, you can see an example of something, but you know, we don't have the same rice, we don't have the same environment, we don't have the same equipment, and there's all these things that are disconnect. And so it's important for them to really understand the challenges that we face, and we want to make sure that we understand the challenges of our participants, and then we can bridge that gap and create a more holistic view, and again, something that's going to have long-term value. So I think those are the key components and kind of like the vision of this program. Justin's now going to talk a little bit more about what is going to be happening throughout the program.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Andrew. And thanks to everybody for joining us this afternoon. I know you're all busy here, right after lunch. So with regards to the nature and the content of the program, one major focus is that it is hands-on. As Andrew mentioned, Gakkogura, located on Sado Island, is a brewery that was set up specifically for the purpose of education. So while it is commercially producing sake, it is doing so in very large amounts, and each tank is allocated for a specific goal or project. And so the way that it would work out is that based upon the goals preset by the cohort, what do they want to learn, what do they want to work on, we would essentially create or be involved in the creation of a portion of the process of that sake that we determined based on what we're looking to achieve. And so the way that that Gakkogura sets up its program now, as Andrew and Wes said, it's currently not for brewing professionals. It's more for general beverage industry or sake industry general professionals. And so it's a bit of a hands-on with just more of an experiential focus. What we're able to do is we're able to together with them by determining what it is we want to learn in that amount of time, we can sort of preset how we spend our time there. So the way that it usually works is they will, because the time that we're actually there is finite, it's only a week. There's only so much that you can actually physically do or see within that amount of time. A lot of times for people, if they're just looking for experience, they either want to make koji or they want to do like the shikomi process and see what that, that's the 3-stage mashing process is. And so it will usually incorporate one or both of those components in as more of experiential nature. However, that being said, for us, depending on what we want to focus on, they will align the timing of what it is we decide to brew with our visit so that we're able to actually go hands-on with the part of the process that we really want to see. And so then together with that, you also have what says there, the second one, sort of the QA sessions together with the Toji as well as the brewery owner. The brewery owner, it's we keep referring to Gakkogura, which is literally brewing school in Japanese, and it's a school, as I mentioned, literally a school and a brewery that has been structured for brewing experiences and brewing training, but it's run by a commercial brewery, the makers of Manotsudu, Obata Shuzo or Obata Sake Brewery. So their main brewery is in town as well. So they have, aside from just having this program, they have a lot of knowledge and experience that they're leaning on in order to operate and run this. And so as a part of that program, while we're in doing hands-on every day, we're also able to spend time together with either the Toji or the owner of the brewery to sit down and tackle specific topics and specific goals that are tied into the project at hand and the goals that we preset. The third one down there was talking about sort of the tasting analysis, and this sort of connects to what Andrew was mentioning. What we'd really like to do for all the breweries that do end up participating is to share samples of their sake that they're actually working on, that they really want to understand their own sake better. They want to improve processes. They want to get further feedback as to sort of how you want to improve or develop things within the brewery. So that together with data, and by sharing that in advance together with the school and with the brewery, we can sit down and sort of work through those and kind of do an analysis on those and figure out how can we help you to further improve or alter or iterate on processes that you're already engaging in as a part of your brewing process. And then for the last one, this is sort of a small dream of ours, and which maybe isn't immediately pertinent to everyone, but we're in conversation about the idea of the participating brewers or breweries that come. Hopefully we can turn this into some sort of a collaboration so that the sake that we make will end up with a significant amount of sake that all has everybody's handprint on it. And so to come up with some way to make this a meaningful collaboration where this sake can hopefully live in the US together with the brewers that take part. All right, if you want to go to the next one there for me, Weston. And then with regards to the nature of the Q&A or the more discussion sort of classroom oriented parts of the program, this is just a sample. This is kind of an example, but being there for 6-7 days, and we won't be hands-on from morning till night in the brewery. It'll be several hours a day focusing on certain components. As I mentioned, outside of that, we'll sit down together with the owners and or Toji and work through different concepts. And so the idea of breaking that down into different things. So looking at the concept behind recipe building in sake, maybe for the first day, and how to approach that and what types of things to consider. The second, starter management. And again, we can align this with what we're working on. If the group decides we want to do a Budaimoto for this round, we can focus on that. If the group decides we want to do something else, we can use that as a reference point for looking at sort of starter management and how to adapt to different styles. We can look at koji making. I know a lot of people have questions about that as regards to choices that can be made in that process, as well as sort of what's available. We can spend time focusing on that. We can look at the actual fermentation and process, temperature curves, things like that, different approaches to, for example, it says here doing controls and doing water additions and temps to get different styles of genshu and things like that, looking at efficiency and whatnot. And then also post-processing. We probably won't see a lot of this necessarily right in the brewery, the pasteurization impacts on products, filtration, things like that. But again, this is a commercial brewery that's been making all types and kinds of sake for a long time. And we can also visit their brewery, discuss with them how they approach all these different things for seasonal products and different types of releases. What do they do when they want to have a seasonal unpasteurized nigori? What do they do when they actually want to pasteurize a nigori? How do they handle things like that? How do they handle in-tank, storage? What are they seeing as their intake storage for noms over time and things like that? And so we can really dig into specific questions that people have. And then all this really feeds back into, again, getting information from the participating breweries in advance, as well as getting input from everyone as to what it is they really want to focus on. Because as you all know, we could spend an entire month at a brewery in Japan and go through everything, and it's still, there would still be plenty to learn and plenty to glean. But in order to maximize the efficiency and the value of everyone's time spent there, the more that we can work with the participants in the cohort in advance, the more that we can build this to cater to those needs. I think that's what I've got for the moment. Great, I'll hand it over to Shima.
Yes, thank you, Justin. Thank you, everyone. I am very happy to talk to you about our program today. And these are very concrete things I'm talking about. Is right now, itinerary is from day 1 to day 12. And program dates, we need to decide fairly early, but this is, there are 2 candidates now, late July to early August, or late August to early September. So the image of the late July is like a July 22nd arrival equal day 1. And the latter option is August 26-ish equal day 1. So those are the 2 candidates now. And then actually 12 days. And day 1, we arrive in Tokyo and stay in Tokyo overnight with a dinner together to know each other. And we move on the day 2 to Gakkogura. Sado Island, you can reach there from a Shinkansen bullet train from Tokyo to Niigata, and we switch over by ferry, and we're going to get there in the late afternoon. And then day 3 to day 9 is actually that Gakkogura program, which Justin has just experienced. And we are going to move on day 9 late in the afternoon back to Niigata and travel to Niigata City and get ready for the 2 more brewery visit for the following day. Day 10, half-day visit, or it could be longer, and it will be more because all those brewers are not, well, most of the brewers are not brewing in the summer season. So it is going to be more like a discussion focused session will happen. So we are in the process of choosing day 10, day 11 breweries, but try to do a different style or different size of the breweries at the moment and make sure that the toji will be available for those sessions. And on the day 11, I mean, on day 12, we are going to return to Tokyo. And then probably we will get to the Tokyo station. That's where the program will end. But I will be there to help you, depending on your flight to what to do. I'm ready to consult with you all those travel details as well. Okay. And next is, right. So what's included in the program? So when I budgeted those things, there are those bullet points included there. SBANA's Advanced Sake Brewers Certification fee and the training and programming at Gakkogura. That's the one in the main 7 days. And breweries, 2 breweries and toji sessions. And transportation from Tokyo Hotel, which is close to the Tokyo station, because that's where Shinkansen bullet train going to Niigata, Sado area. And those transportation, as I told you, we will cover that. And accommodation, Tokyo Hotel, Sado Island, and Niigata hotels. Sado Island, there are not many big hotels, so it's going to be more like guest house style accommodation. And the group meals altogether, most of the meals are in the major cities at Tokyo and Niigata are going to be in a group. So that's covered. And during Gakkogura, except 2 group dinners, because the toji and the owner couple actually, going to make themselves available for the dinner for a further discussion or just for fun. And on top of that, there are breakfast and a lunch you may need to buy at the convenience shops or supermarket there. But in Sado, there are not too many options on the meal options. So most likely, I'll be there as well. So I will take you to the supermarket or rather help to choose all that stuff. So it's not going to be an expensive restaurants available in Sado Island. And the basic medical insurance while staying in Japan, because as you know, COVID is still a problem. So we will include to the fee the insurance coverage for COVID as well. So that totaling about 3,600 using current exchange rate, and the $600 is going to the certification fee as well. So the bullet point 2 asterisk, those are the things which are not included. So the biggest one is international flights. The incidentals, I would say like $500 worth, if anything. I can go into detail with the people who are going to come once the program is already candidates are chosen. But I would say 500 is quite a good number at this point. Okay. I think that's what I need to talk. Oh, sorry. I just saw the translation service. One of the question. So I would just mention I will be meeting you at the Tokyo Hotel till the end of the program, and I'm a certified national government licensed interpreter guide, certified as well. So I will take care of that part. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Shima. So turning to the criteria for selection of candidates, this is going to be a very competitive program. There's a limited number of spots. And so what we're really looking for are experienced brewers, people that aren't novices to brewing, who are committed to professional sake brewing over the long run. Another requisite is being a SBANA member in good standing. And we want to really give close attention and consideration of candidates from different parts of the continent, and with an eye toward ethnic and gender diversity wherever possible. But what we're really looking for, I think, at the end of the day, are candidates for whom this very unique and special experience will have, a major impact on their brewing capacity moving forward. That's what we're really looking for. So that's one of, I think, the underlying criteria that's going to be under consideration. Our initial applications will be sent out soon, maybe within the next week or so. This will be a list of questions regarding candidates' backgrounds and experience and what they hope to gain out of this program. We'll then have we'll have a review process of the written applications, and then invite select candidates for interviews. We'll do a final selection of the candidates, and then announce the finalists hopefully by the end of January. Another thing that we're really pleased to announce is that we are working on trying to develop a needs-based scholarship of up to $3,000 for participants. This scholarship would be used to cover the program fees, excluding international travel, the certification fee, and incidentals. And we are going to announce also the criteria for the scholarships shortly. So that's a very exciting component of this. We want to make sure that people that may or may not have the means to get there can actually join this program. So we're very grateful for a benefactor who has provided for that option. So, all right, we will stop there and now move on to the Q&A session. So please, everyone, send in your Q&As. via the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. We already have several in the queue, so maybe go to the first one. If your cohort decide they want to focus on Oimizu additions and Moromi management, how are they going to get hands-on experience with decisions based on different temperature spikes, problems during the 20-day Moromi changes if you're only there for a week? Really great question. Maybe Justin, you're best prepared to answer that one.
Yeah, you're right. You can't do anything. There's no way we can, or sorry, everything. There's no way we can cram everything into this. If the group decided that that was above and beyond all else, the thing that we ought to be focusing on, it's entirely reasonable that we could have, say, a sake that has that planned as part of the type of style or the issue that we wanted to focus on, and have something prepared and already ready so that we are there for a span of when we will likely be having to do that. That's something we could set up. Would that mean that we would have to then, how would that affect the other schedules, say doing Koji or doing other things? We'd have to discuss that and work that out. It's also possible that the other nice thing about our timing with this being toward either the end of July or the end of August, if it was the end of August, Shima, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we would be the last group that went through there, which means that there would also be probably at least another batch or two that are all already going, so we'd have a chance to see other things that are actually fermenting. Again, that may or may not be work that's applicable to what they've already got going, but depending on what everyone really wants to focus on, we'll certainly do our best to try and coordinate a batch and a program that accommodates that.
Great. And just a reminder to everybody on here, this is a webinar format, so you won't be able to pose questions videoly, but please send in your questions via the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. Another question, will there be translators available for the program?
Yes. I will be there. I will be there on site at the brewery throughout the duration of the program. I don't wish it upon anyone to have to be stuck with me for an entire week, but I will indeed be there for the duration, to translating, interpreting in the brewery while we're working, for all of the QA sessions and all of that stuff. So
and I would do other part of it. Can you hear me?
Yep, perfectly.
Yeah, okay, good.
Great. Another question about the duration of the program. Is it only 7 days long? Shima, do you want to address?
Yeah, actually, Alexander said, never mind. Is that the same person? Well, anyway, I will tell you, 7 days is a Gakkogura program. We are nesting to the Gakkogura program into our program. So we have other breweries we are visiting. Those are the important thing, because once you have a basic sort of 7 days there, you can add on to it, compare and contrast. So those 2 more breweries visit is part of the program, definitely.
And I guess, and just to add to that, I said we can announce the breweries, I think, later, probably pretty soon. But we're looking at 2 very different breweries working at very different scale with very different, I guess you could say, focuses and their approach and sort of the nature of things that they're trying to create and put out into the world. So again, the idea is to be able to sit down with both of those places to give you a different perspective as to sort of how to address problems or find new solutions. Those will be probably about a half day each.
Yes,
I guess
and it could be longer. I mean, we are sort of fine tuning that side. And also day 1, actually, you guys arrive fairly late because from the US flight is fairly late flight. So from day 2 onwards, almost full day. Yeah. Okay.
Question about selection process. How long will the selection process take? So we're hoping to get the applications out within the next week or so. That will be the sort of the first step in the application process for this. And we're hoping then to have interviews probably throughout January, and with a final selection made at the end of January is what we were initially scheduling. So that's kind of the general timeline. And when is the estimated date for having a defined program according to the team necessities? Shima and Justin, you want to field that one?
So assuming by the end of January, we would know who are going. And then we are started asking all those questions based on, which date. As Justin said, if it's late August one, that's the last tank. And then the other date is second from the last tank. But anyway, all those things considered, we will get the information from the candidates, from the people who are going, and then started to having a bit of a conversation. So the people who are selected will be involved in the whole process, I would say. So that's depending on how, everybody's thinking the same way or everybody's everywhere. So that's something we have to coordinate. But we will try to get there as soon as we can. And especially the selection of the breweries. Anything, Justin?
Nope, that works.
Another question about, will it be necessary to apply for visas for this program? In general, if you're an American citizen, you do not require a visa to enter Japan and be there for, I think, up to 90 days as a tourist. I'm not sure about other countries. We did have a question about whether if you're from Europe, whether you can qualify for this program. As we have suggested, one of the requisites for being a candidate is that you are a SBANA member of the association. To be frank, we haven't actually discussed the possibility of European participants. Maybe that's something, I don't know if anybody has any immediate reaction to that right now. We can.
I'd say my immediate reaction would be that they would definitely be considered. Our members are all able to participate. So
there
yes.
you go.
Yeah.
And English, please. That's the limit of a translation at this point. So
I guess that is true. So yeah, I guess proficient English would be necessary.
But getting back to the visa, I think most European countries are also able to have entry into Japan for a certain period of time, certainly beyond, I think, the 10 days or 12 days that we're planning for this. So another question from what I've seen from Gakkogura, they use thermal tanks. Will the batch for your program avoid this because they're not so available in the US? Justin?
Yeah. JJ, another good question. You're right. As I recall, I think all of the tanks that they have at Gakkogura are thermal tanks. So what we would be working with there probably would be those. That being said, I know that the main brewery is not all thermal tanks, and that they've got there's a lot of manual labor involved in temperature control. So would it be possible to, say, use a smaller tank and bring that into the brewery for that, or what? Is something like that a possibility? That's something I would have to check with them to see. I'm certainly open to looking into that. Whether or not it's feasible, I can't guarantee, but certainly could look into that. And then even if that's not, even if the batch that we're doing would be using a thermal tank, they would still be able to at least provide information and perspective on working with on fermentation when it's not temperature controlled in that way.
And I love this question, just so you guys know, because it identifies some of these differences that are crucial, that can really impact the final product. And if we can identify some of these differences up front and then talk about it through some of our deep dives as to the importance or the differences, how they cool differently, how they, might circulate differently, all these different things, we can talk a little bit more in depth and at least get, some of the research that we know, and whether or not we can practically, tackle that problem is one thing, but, from a seminar and a workshop perspective, that's another thing. So I think it's a fantastic question.
Yeah, and again, I guess another reason, just to kind of add to that, another reason we wanted to do the seminar today as well too is to get these questions, to again further understand what everybody needs in advance, so that we can address as many of these upfront and early on, so that we're able to cater those to the best of our ability.
Right. Another question. I know you said there's a selection process for sake brewers. Would it be held against us if we professionally brew beer and just started brewing sake? That's something that we have given some thought to. And I think that where we sort of landed on this program is that obviously we do want this to be very sake brewer focused. But you know, we recognize that there may be folks who have extensive brewing experience in the beer world. And so I don't think that we want to exclude those candidates. And I think it's just a matter of, you know, throwing your hat in the ring kind of and seeing how you stack up, how you might stack up against other candidates. I think that would be the ultimate deciding factor, but we definitely want to encourage anyone, you know, who this would benefit most from, and that will be, so maybe you'll be given, you know, a little bit extra consideration if you're not really a sake brewer by trade. One of the things that we really want to make sure of, though, is that whoever does take part in this program really can hit the ground running. We don't want novices in brewing, be it beer or sake. It's really vital that we have a program that is geared toward advanced brewers, people that have the basics down, because this is not a basic program by any means. How many applicants will be selected for the program? Shima, do you want to address this one?
At this point, 4 members. The reason being Gakkogura itself is a physically fairly limited space. So that's part of the reason. But if there are compelling reason to increase, certainly we would start talking to the brewers as well. So 4 is the first number.
Question about when will it be decided what group will do, what the group will focus on during the course? I'm worried that when a small person has other ideas than the rest of the group, that they won't see it, they won't address, I think, what we want to have addressed. And you know, I think that's something that because of the small size of this group, that we'll be able to address the specific needs and questions of the participants. I don't think they need to be, this is not necessarily a consensus-based approach, I don't believe. You know, we really want to make sure that whoever is on this program has their questions answered, and they're able to address specific questions that they bring to the program. If anybody wants to add to that, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that, like, you know, in terms of like the finiteness of some of this, you know, the style and moment in brewing that we decide upon is something that's going to have to be set in stone, obviously, because you can only do so much. So whether that's a Koji focus, a Shubo focus, a Kimoto focus, whatever that might be, that's going to be set in stone. But in terms of some of the other topics that are going to get tackled, I think there will be focuses on those in terms of some of the more in-depth seminars, but there'll also be plenty of time and community opportunities for question and answers and sit downs. So, you know, we hope it's an extremely robust program that you have the opportunity to explore a lot of different topics. At the end of the day, it's a 12 or so day program. We can only do so much, but I would hope that, you know, with such a small group, that at the end of it, everybody both comes away with it feeling great and has a majority of the questions answered, or at least are on a path to finding those answers.
Yeah. Well, I hope this is not just a course and that's it, meaning that there will be a network, each one of the people who participated created with a brewer, and this should continue. So those Q&A is sort of, you know, lifelong pursuit of sake brewing.
It's a great point. Moving on to another question, will there be additional support structures for implementing knowledge gained from the program into the North American brewing context? Are we just visiting and learning brewing techniques in Japan, or will this be tailored for the North American brewer in mind? Justin and Andrew, you want to take that one?
Yeah, I mean, I think that is at the heart of what we want to accomplish, is that we do want this to be tailored for the North American brewer or brewers outside of Japan. And I think, you know, it is a multi-pronged approach where we do want to see and visit and learn techniques from Japan, but we also need to bring our challenges and our you know, realities to the table. And you know, I think I personally want to make sure that like I said, the brewers on the other side in Japan understand the challenges that we face and the approach that we come to the table with, so that it's not just like a one-sided, this is how you're supposed to do it, quote unquote. I think that's super important. And then I think what the first part of that question is also a really great thing, because yes, we want to take what is learned and help pull it over to our membership so that they can benefit from it as well. So what that looks like, I don't know if we have anything set in stone, but I think that that's extremely important to bring back knowledge as well and share. That's huge.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of just reiterating, I guess, what Andrew said, but it ties into JJ's questions as well, right? It's the scenarios are different, the ecosystem is different, the people are working in, and so it's how do we do our best in order to bridge that gap? They're working in a different reality in Japan that we're all working with here, and again, that's why we're trying to make it something that is as catered as possible, which is why we actually do ask a lot of the participants in the group as well, to sharing information, sharing data, because in order to be able to address those, we need to be able to provide as much real information as we can to the Japan side as well. And so it's an ongoing process back and forth. And then, as Shima mentioned as well, everyone who obviously goes through the program will then have developed that experience together with the other group in their cohort, as well as the brewery and breweries that we visited. So that becomes part of their network of resources down the road as well too. So to have that ongoing communication and support available, hopefully something will nurture long-term development.
Yeah, there are a few other questions that are sort of tangents of this. So also from JJ, you say very different scale. How likely are they to match the scale of production that will be going on in North America? And if the Japan brewery is a big scale brewery, how is that information going to translate over to usable knowledge?
Yeah, I can say that Gakkogura is, again, I don't know exactly the scale of where everyone's at or what they're working on. That being said, I would say that it's probably very close to the type of scale and volume that a lot of breweries are either working with or could work toward relatively soon, probably after getting going. Of the other two breweries we're planning to visit, another one is very much of the I guess super micro scale, and is very much taking a very, how should I say, I guess a skill-based and economic approach to figuring out really effective solutions at a small scale. And so we've taken that into consideration as well. Hopefully as part of this, you can see a little bit bigger operations as well too, so we can get to those that are out there that are taking part, that do want to scale their business and do want to scale production or interested in that. We want to be able to address those, and I think we're set up to do that. But the majority of what we'll be seeing is something that's very much within scope of what I think a lot of breweries are at or are close to.
And this is another, also in the vein of how transferable is this experience going to be to the North American context? How likely is this program going to build a relationship with the Japanese Brewing Society? You turn up at Gakkogura and they are brewing with number 35, but that's not available in the US yet. How are you going to use this program to build on the relationship to get those other yeasts and tech to North America? And we're just my perspective on this is that one of the things we've been talking about is actually bringing some of the things, the ingredients that are actually here in North America to Gakkogura. So Calrose, for instance, having that available at Gakkogura so that we can actually use the ingredients that are available here, not necessarily in Japan, so that this is relevant to North American brewers. But Andrew, Justin, you want to weigh in?
Yeah, I mean, I think that just comes down to planning on our end, that we're not necessarily, and I guess it does depend on the needs of the group. Do you want to see something like that? Like, let's say the group was like, I really want to brew with X, Y, and Z. I'm tired of brewing with 7. I want to see that. But what might be more helpful for the group would be maybe brewing with a number 9 or something like that. So I think that comes down to some decisions that the group is going to kind of need to weigh in on and decide what they want to see and experience. But I do think an important goal of a program like this, and for the association in general, is always how do we leverage programs like this and to build relationships. I mean, that's what we do as an association. And yes, we would love to continue to build on our relationships with the Brewing Society and figure out ways to get certain things over to the US. So these kinds of programs are really important because it puts us on the map and it shows a seriousness to the association. And I think that's a part of why we are look at that criteria and the seriousness of the people who are applying, because it's full circle in that way.
There's a question, will there be opportunities to conduct side visits to visit brewing research centers and Koji King producers, for example, to learn about new research applications on yeast, brewing methods, rice that support the sake industry? Shima, you want to address that one?
Right now, the itinerary I mentioned does not have enough time. So first, I thought most people cannot go away from their own brewery too much. So it depends. We can add on the additional type of tour, especially the research, did it say research institute? Yeah. Like, for example, Niigata University just created the Japan Sake Studies as a department. So they do have tons of research going on. And luckily, we will be in Niigata as a prefecture. So that kind of thing can be considered. But again, I'm not going to promise you anything. So depending on the people who are chosen coming to Japan, would like to do that, or there is opportunity, then we can add on to it. And then, but in that case, the program need to be 1 day longer. So we have to do the balancing. What availability? Should we do part of the people who can remain in Japan as an option? So another thing I would like to add to this point is, because this is the first type of this program by SBANA, so we are hoping to do more than this year or this time. So the program will get those inputs and then reshape little by little, I'm sure. That's what's going to happen. And the continuation of this program is also very important for SBANA, I think. Okay.
Great. Other questions? There was one about would beer coming from the wine world also be considered? So would someone from the wine producing world be eligible for this? Andrew, do you have a sense of that?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I think, if you have a professional inclination to move into the sake industry, if you are a sake, if you maybe are from the wine or beer industry and you are trying to open a sake brewery, if you are, like a brewery in progress, if you are a sake brewery worker or brewery owner, that's what we give the most consideration to, is people who are committed to the industry and want to advance in the industry itself. is where we focus. So, you know, I think that's you know, that's the long-term goal of the program, is to create a pipeline for you know, like Shima was saying, that we want this to be a long-term sustainable program that we do year after year and improve, and the certification gains more traction and more you know, value over time, obviously. But you know, we want the sake industry in the North America and around the world to expand and to grow. And like we've seen from a lot of other industries, it starts with producers. And if we can get more producers, we can get better quality sake, we can grow this thing. And so that is, we are planting seeds, and a program like this is about planting seeds. So that's what we're focused on.
Great. Well, I don't see any more questions. So if there is a last minute question, get it in right now. Otherwise, we'll wrap up this session. As I said, this will be recorded, or is being recorded, and we'll try to get this up on our YouTube channel very soon. So keep an eye out for that if you want to review what we went over today. But I just want to thank our panelists today for joining us and for providing their input on how we are going about this program. And I want to also thank everybody who joined today's info session. You know, as you can see, I think that the structure of the program is very much in place, and there are some things that are yet to be sort of modified. But we want to do that really with you know, due consideration of what our candidates for this would be most interested in. And so I think this has been just as helpful to us as we learn from you all what your priorities and interests are in this program, so that we can make the necessary adjustments and make this really as rich an experience and opportunity as we can possibly make it. Again, as Shima said, this is a pilot program. We do want to make this a long-term project. And so there'll be many questions as opposed to answers in these initial phases, but your input is very much appreciated. And I encourage all of you on this call to send us follow-up questions, and we'll do our best to answer them as best we can. But all in all, I think this is just a really exciting program. We're really excited to see the interest in this, and we hope that this is really going to have an impact on the industry moving forward. So any closing thoughts from the rest of the panel? Or
just that I'm excited. I think it's going to be an incredible program, incredible opportunity. So, you know, I hope you all apply, and that you get a trip like this, trip of a lifetime. So
great. Well, thank you all again, and we look forward again to hearing from you, and to sending out applications very soon, and reviewing them in the very near future. So thank you all again, and we look forward again to hearing from you. All right, bye.
Bye.